Welcome to the Corporate Treasury 101 podcast. Today, it is just Hussam and I. We received amazing guests lately. Bart Hendriks from CEVA Logistics, the thought leaders of TIS to discuss Treasury in 2023, and we thought it would be great to serve you with an episode, just the two of us, back to the basics, as we say. And today we are going to talk about supply chain finance. In this episode, expect to learn what is supply chain to begin with. An example of supply chain explains what are the financial aspects of it, why it is crucial to properly finance a supply chain, and much more. It felt good just discussing with Hussam. If you like the episode, or if like us, you learned a lot about supply chain finance listening to us, why not leaving us a review? Reviews are the best way to help podcasters, since the algorithm of the different platforms then push forward the best rated podcast. And well, on top of that, it makes Hussam and I very happy, so do not hesitate. With all that being said, please welcome Hussam and I. Absolutely. Pleasure to meet you again, face to face, my Hussam.
Just the two of us.
Exactly.
I was about to sing the Just the Two of Us song, but okay, never mind.
Let's keep it for another episode, as we say.
Beautiful voice.
Exactly.
So, I heard you wanted to talk about supply chain finance.
Yes, we recently talked about working capital management, and supply chain finance is quite linked to that. And for sure, Treasury has and plays a very important role in it. But I would like to first talk about supply chain without the finance after it. What do you think about that, Hussam?
Sounds good. So what's a supply chain?
So a supply chain is a network of companies and or individuals that work towards creating a product and delivering it to the end customer. So if we take the supply chain of a car, for instance, we obviously happen to need raw materials, right? Steel, plastic, rare earth, metals, and so on. Those raw materials then need to be extracted, transported, melted, transformed into car parts that are then assembled, and so on and so on. When the car is finalized into a factory, obviously, it is transported along with other cars to wholesalers, retailers, and finally delivered to the end customer. This list is not exhaustive, but obviously the supply chain is composed of all the actors that make this process possible.
So it sounds like a lot of logistical organization. I don't think a lot of people realize just how many steps there are in creating anything, right? Like even simple.
Yes.
I mean, a car is a very complex thing. A phone is a very complex thing. There's hundreds of parts inside those individually. Mm-hmm. To make each of those parts, it's not just like one company extracts the minerals, refines the minerals, processes the minerals, makes the mold, pours the molten metal into the mold, and then pops it out and then sells it to the car company. It's an individual company for each of those steps. One company is mining,
exactly.
Another one is refining, another one is making the mold for the actual part, another one is actually pouring the hot metal into the mold. Those are all individual companies that make up the supply chain to make that one part of 100 which goes into a car.
Yeah, exactly.
It becomes very complex in the real world.
It's amazing how many actors can be put in just, if you look at any project within your room, how many actors and companies were required to deliver it and have it on your table, whatsoever. It's crazy. But so indeed, a well-managed supply chain means delivery of goods and products to the customer in a timely and cost-effective manner, taking into account all those actors we just named. And with, of course, a respect of the regulation and ensuring that a good quality of the product is delivered, right?
Okay, but what's the link here with Treasury? Like, I understand you need to pay each of them. We've talked about payment terms and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And what else new are we going to learn today, Guillaume, about the relationship with Treasury and supply chain?
Plenty. But let's focus on the finance aspect of supply chain finance first. And for the sake of clarity, for the people listening to us, you may have heard of supply chain finance under another name, such as supplier finance or even reverse factoring. I know it doesn't tell you what it means, Hussam. I'm getting to it. So, the primary objective of supply chain finance, and we'll dive a little bit further down this episode with the implications of treasury, but the objective of supply chain finance is to improve and help the working capital management and the cash flows of all the companies or dedicated ones, specialized one within the supply chain. And those are both terms that we already broke down in this podcast, right? Working capital management and cash flows, respectively episode 79 and 50. So if you would like to understand those topics in depth, go and check out those episodes. They are great. And one was with Daniel Sanchez, actually, from a big FMCG company. So definitely worth checking.
So if I remember right, Guillaume, supply chain, so it's cash flow is, no matter what your profit or loss or whatever it else is, one key aspect that especially a treasurer manages is the amount of available cash, so liquidity of the company, right? So yes, you are buying something for $100 and selling it for $200, but if you need to buy the thing for $100 before you can sell it, you need $100 to pay, right?
Exactly.
So that's the cash flow. But then working capital management, that was like when we did a bit of accounting, right? That was
yes.
Assets and liabilities, but also the current assets and current liabilities, which was anything that's less than 12 months. Is that right?
Exactly. So short term, indeed, less than 12 months. But when we talk about working capital management in treasury, it's even shorter. Like you look at a couple of months, maximum 6, to really like the short term. Are we able to meet our short term debt repayment obligations within the coming months? Absolutely. But that's it. Accounting wise, short terms means less than 12 months. So a horizon of 1 year. Absolutely. So you're quite spot on, Hussam. And supply chain finance is thus the providing and financing solutions to suppliers and buyers within the supply chain. And so helping all those actors with their working capital management and cash flows. Because as we talked about many times, as a buyer, you want to pay as late as possible, right? To optimize those cash flows and have a current liability as far as possible in the future. And as a seller, well, it's the other way around. You want to get paid as soon as possible. But how do you, in a supply chain as complex as a car one, for instance, make everybody happy? Everybody wants to pay late or get paid early. And there is therefore a mismatch of expectations from both parties involved in the transactions, times as many counterparty relations you have in the supply chain.